And we're back. Rattlesnake taking on Tongfu. Game 1 is in the books. We can already see the Game 2 draft well underway. A couple of familiar faces, no surprise. And really, we're already beginning to see post-TI3 a lot of teams settle into patterns like this. Starting to see a very large concentration of heroes that are just coming up in every single game as picks and bans. And yeah, the Weaver, no different from that. We're going to find out if Rattlesnake can turn the bagel into a breadstick and give us a Game 3, or if they're going to end up falling 0-2 to Tongfu, who's certainly going to be happy to get their Eastern Divisional play off to a good start with a 1-0 standing in the winners column. I'm your host, Aaron A.C. Chambers, live here on the floor of our downtown San Francisco studio. Joining me for the broadcast, Merlini, going to be lending us his insight and analysis. Now, Merlini, looking back at Game 1, I mean, we saw what happened. Rattlesnake hung around. They really managed to keep things from getting too out of control. But in the end, Tongfu able to just execute one very well-timed smoke gank to seal the deal. Coming into this game, from a player's point of view, do you look to just stick with what you know, or do you look to maybe try to do something a little bit different to try and shake things up?
I think Rattlesnake picked Spectre too early last time. They picked him as a 4th pick, and it kind of revealed their hand, and Tongfu could just draft a greedier lineup. They picked 2 carries instead of 1, and they still got enough farm around the map and still made enough kills happen. So I think if they want to go with a very passive strategy with Spectre, they need to hold their cards until the very last pick. I think it really does have to do with the draft. I think that IC played pretty well. He actually had a sheep up on the Timbersaw at the end. I think Nyx Assassin played very well, aside from giving up the first blood. And Luo did what he could for the most part. So I don't really think it was that much of a play issue. They had small mistakes here and there, but mostly I think it comes down to each of the teams' draft and each of the teams' laning phase. So Rattlesnake, I think, just should just stick with what they're strong with. If they want to do a 4 protect 1, then just draft it later. If they want to go for a more aggressive strategy so they can maybe win a little bit earlier without just putting all their eggs in one basket on Luo in the Spectre, then that would be another strategy they can run.
Really like the Alchemist pickup there from Rattlesnake coming out in 3rd position. I think that jives perfectly with what you were saying, Merlini. The idea of finding yourself in that situation, a true 4 protect 1 where all of your hopes are pinned on the success of one hero. Alchemist is one of those heroes who can adapt to what is needed based on what the other team's showing you and based on whatever dynamic goals you happen to have on the map. He's a hero who can go with a pure out-and-out farm build, a late-game build, sometimes oriented around just a phase radiance kind of an approach, or he's a hero that can get out and fight very effectively, arc more for a mid-game punching power sort of a status, get up something like phase Shadow Blade BKB. And now with the Spirit Breaker, I mean, they're going to have some heroes that can free up space on the map. And I'll tell you what's terrifying is the potential for the pain train of a Lifestealer and a Spirit Breaker together. You want to talk about gank potential? Yeah, maybe it's not quite as instantaneous as an IO +1, but it's a little bit more scary knowing you've got not just the LS's damage output to worry about if you happen to get ganked out, but you have the Spirit Breaker and his immense amount of lockdown that just does not give a damn about Magic Immunity.
Yeah, it's very surprising to speaking of Wisp, we haven't seen Wisp picked or banned yet today, and as opposed to yesterday where we saw FY playing very, very well, and it's just very surprising to me that neither of these teams have opted to use him. And I think it would fit very well in Tongfu's playstyle. They may actually pick it up with the Ursa. I don't know if they practice it enough. That's always something that you have to consider with these Asian teams. Do they actually have a Wisp player? Wisp is very, very difficult, one of the most unusual supports in the game. Looks like they will go with a much safer choice with the Bane. Bane, I still think, is very vulnerable to Spirit Breaker Lifestealer bombs, and I think that's going to constantly prove to be an issue for them. They don't really have a good counter initiative. Yeah, you might be able to sleep Spirit Breaker, but if they just charge a Bane, they can't really do anything. Elder Titan Stomp's not going to go off in time. Weaver and Ursa can't really do anything defensively to save their teammates, so they might just get trucked by this constant ganking of Spirit Breaker and Lifestealer, and that's not even to comment about the Alchemist. So they went Spectre last game, very defensive, almost always in the safe lane triple lane. Alchemist flexes their options a lot. They can put him in solo mid since they don't have one yet. They can put him in aggressive triple lane, and they can put him in safe lane triple lane, and you can get a lot of kills with this hero, unlike Spectre, who really needs his ultimate and is just a farming machine.
Absolutely, and I really do like Tongfu, the direction they've gone with that Ursa. Really a hero who can deal with a Lifestealer. We saw that to use to great effect, at least temporarily, in our series yesterday. But he really does well against an Alchemist as well. Alchemist, an innately tanky hero. Not quite tanky and survivable the same way a Lifestealer is, but still a hero who just does not deal well with Overpower and Fury swipes. Rattlesnake will go ahead and round out their front 5, picking up the Rubik. Now, a Rubik pick after the Bane, I absolutely love that, and with a Weaver on the board as well. Shikuchi, one of the most valuable spells a Rubik can ever steal, allows him to do a little bit of extra damage, but more than anything, allows him to extend fights, allows him to extend his own survivability. But pretty much, if he's in position, he will always get Fiend's Grip. And just as Fiend's Grip's phenomenal against Lifestealer, it's just as phenomenal against another big-time melee hero like an Ursa. So if Rubik's able to get that, if and when it is spent on the Lifestealer, it's going to be a very big deal and something about which Tongfu is going to have to be immensely cautious of.
I'm surprised that Rattlesnake didn't actually ban Rubik themselves, just because we've seen Rubik played very, very effectively against Spirit Breaker. Just like yesterday, I forget whose Rubik was exactly, but they constantly stole charge and Nether Strike and just was a better Spirit Breaker than Spirit Breaker was. Yep. And he has Telekinesis and Fable and the Aura to offer on top of the.
I want to say it was Lanham, wasn't it? Lanham?
Yeah, I believe so. And they just played it really, really well. And Tongfu could have actually picked it up instead of the Bane. I think Bane's decent at shutting down Alchemist, but I think that Rubik is generally a much better solution than Bane, because I think he has faster cast animation and he can actually turn those spells around.
We're going to see the teams begin to move out, as we see, thanks to our stats man standing in for us. Much love to him. Honestly, oh my goodness, I feel embarrassed. I had not met him until we popped in the lobby and said he wanted to do stats. So his name, Nahaz, I think. I want to thank him if I'm correct in that. If not, I want him to put his Twitter information up at the end of the match anyway. So sorry about that, brother. But or sister, as the case may be. But as we saw, Rattlesnake traditionally has not matched up well against Tongfu. Of course, this is not the same Rattlesnake that we saw at TI3, but nonetheless, Tongfu, a very strong team. They're going to look to make it 4-0 in their last 4 meetings. So taking a look at the lineups, who's handling who? We're going to have Zoe farming up our Ursa Warrior. We'll have the Bane, played by San Shing Lina with the very nice Arcana Lina set. That's going to be played by ZSMJ. Again, a little bit of a storyline there. Former carry player, really became world-renowned as a carry player, now handling the support position for Tongfu. We'll have our Weaver, played by Mu, who played an excellent Beastmaster in Game 1. And we're going to have XTT setting up shop here in mid on the Elder Titan. On the other side of the river, we're going to have Luo, and he's actually hanging out near mid, at least for the moment. He will go ahead and block these creeps. It's been a while since I've seen him mid.
Icy on top.
Icy being pursued out. Zoe has not placed a skill point yet, and doesn't look like.
I think if he skilled Earthshock, they probably could have killed him if they saved Sleep for the charge, but it was still a very low probability kill.
Very close call. Nonetheless, he does make it safely to lane. So it will be the mid Lifestealer, though, handled by Luo. Johnny this time, who played our Nyx Assassin mid in Game 1, will be farming up the Alchemist with the help of Sag on the Visage, as well as 121, who played our Elder Titan in Game 1. This time he will be playing on the Rubik, trying to live up to Lanham's example yesterday. Really one of the most well-played Rubiks I've seen in a long, long time. Mu will be caught out, and off goes all the damage they could ask for, following it up with the Unstable Concoction. And really, that's just the danger of this tri-lane. Whenever you have the stun and the damage, it can come off of an Unstable Concoction. Fade Bolt, eventually, at level 2. Quite good, but Sag there with the burst damage they needed coming out of Soul Assumption. First blood, and well played.
I think it was a very smart idea for Rattlesnake to do lanes the way they did. Oh, looks like Moo's gonna die again.
There it is, the stun to follow it up. Soul Assumption is there, and Mu feeds 2 kills, including first blood, in less than 2 minutes. Johnny taking a few tower shots, but in the end, it doesn't matter. They're going to have to change things up quick, fast, and in a hurry. We can see Tongfu in a panic as they move 2 supports down and hope they can get there in time to maybe salvage something out of this safe lane.
Yeah, I think that Rattlesnake just predicted their lanes very, very well. They don't have the Bane matched up versus the Lifestealer. Lifestealer actually matches up very well mid versus Elder Titan. He can just Lifesteal back up after the Ancestral Spirit spam, and he's not really forced to worry about the right click, especially with the Stout Shield in his inventory. It looks like a stun just barely misses from ZSMJ, and this triple lane can shut down the Weaver very, very hard, as we already saw Mu dying twice in less than 2 minutes time. That is going to set him back hugely. It's not going to be as big of an impact as Zoe's Weaver last game.
I'll tell you the big winner here is Spirit Breaker. Rattlesnake obviously doing quite well, getting those 2 kills on the Weaver down in bottom, but more so than anything, just getting this back into a one-on-one position. Zoe versus Icy. Icy sitting at 4 CS to the 12 of the Ursa, so still playing very cautiously. Mu again, gonna be slept by Sanjing to try and buy in some time. There's Grave Shield to slow him down, and will be cleaned up one more time. This bottom lane, an absolute disaster zone for Tongfu, as Rattlesnake has seized control of this early game and really causing havoc down near the jungle.
Where was the SMJ for that? I think he was creep pulling, but Weaver cannot be out that far. He's already died twice. What's to prevent him from dying a third time with only Bane there? He just hit level 2. Looking at Alchemist, he's already level 3. Visage is almost level 3, and Rubik is almost level 3 too. So they're heavily outlaning him, even in a 3-on-1 situation, and that is going to prove very problematic. They had to rotate 2 heroes already to babysit Mu, but he still died. He probably may die again, even with these 2 supports there. We see Sag actually rotating mid. Are they going to be able to get a kill on XTT? Oh, looks like he is actually coming back into the lane. They have a couple of heroes trying to scout him out, but luckily with a very well-placed observer ward here, Visage with his boost will just walk away to safety.
3-0. 3 minutes in. This mid matchup going about as anticipated. Luo getting the job done, sitting at 15 CS. Ursa's doing great. Zoe just getting free farm here. Icy not really getting as much CS as you would think. He's been a little afraid of the Fury swipes, of course. Doesn't want to just have his health whittled down, but still at least getting some levels. He will be able to get relevant as soon as the Lifestealer decides to start bouncing around with him. Rattlesnake, in the meantime, soaking up some much-needed experience in gold. 13 CS for the Alchemist to the 10 of the Weaver. And Weaver, obviously, on the bad end of those 3 deaths. Sansheng has found himself a haste rune. We'll see if he wants to do anything with it.
Looks like Alchemist is not going for the Grievous Greed build at all, even though he pretty much just have free farm in this lane. He went for 2 Acid Spray, 2 Unstable Concoction. It's really a toss-up as to whether or not you want to get 1 point in Grievous Greed very early, because Acid Spray does synergize very well with Unstable Concoction, but I think they have enough damage output, especially with Visage, to kill him multiple times.
Here we go. We got 2 rotating from Rattlesnake. Smoke on Sag and 1-2-1. They're going to take a very long path. They're going to go for top. Thought they might try to do something to the ET. Not going to be the case, and this is very bad news for Zoe. He does have up some phase boots, and he is going to be able to do some damage if he can close the gap. Just level 3 on the Visage to the level 5, almost level 6 on Ursa. Rubik's there, though, and here we go. There's the charge. Immediately caught out. There's the Grave Chill to follow it. Fade Bolt. They will have Telekinesis if they need it, and they will. Bringing him back. Do they have the damage output? They do. Soul Assumption hung on to by Sag, letting those charges build, and they managed to get a very high-profile kill to match the other 3 they had on Weaver, make it 4-0.
Yeah, and this is very, very bad start for Tongfu. Totally did not expect this. I mean, they had the Ursa pick, but they weren't able to match up any of the heroes. Like, Ursa does very well over Lifestealer, but they haven't even seen each other all game. Bane does very well versus Lifestealer too, but again, they haven't seen Lifestealer all game. So Rattlesnake just playing around with Tongfu's lanes, just making them rotate, and just they're 4 kills on the board already. Completely different story from last game.
We got a charge on the ZSMJ. He's going to pass behind his own tower. Looks like they might want to engage off of this. Johnny's there. He's not going to cancel it. He's got a Lifestealer inside. He picked up in mid. And ZSMJ going to be caught out. Rattlesnake looking to add more kills to their total. Mu caught as well. ZSMJ will be cleaned up. Here comes XTT and just wanders into his death, really. Walked in and did next to nothing. Sansheng and Mu forced to tuck their tail between their legs and head back to the tier 1. Very well executed, and gotta love the onboard, the quick boarding that Icy allows. He passed through mid. Luo jumping in transit. 6-0, and Rattlesnake not about to let themselves be found in the same situation they were in the mid-game in Game 1, where they were kind of playing uphill. This time it's going to be uphill one way, and it's all going to be uphill with Rattlesnake at the top.
I like Spirit Breaker because he guarantees a lot of action, whether he dies a lot or gets a lot of kills. I mean, we see much more action than last game. I think we had like 14 kills on one side after like 30 minutes. I think that Rattlesnake is very well on track to make this a very action-packed game. We see XCT actually going for a Treads build in mid instead of the Arcane Mech. They actually don't have a mech carrier. He does not get
Zoe caught out again in the river. Here comes the charge. He ate the open wounds. Earthshock's there. Here comes some help from Johnny, but it won't even be needed. Could have cleaned him up. Johnny there to help split the experience and gold just a smidge. 7-0. They're laying a goose egg, man. It's 7 kills in 7 minutes, all belonging to one side.
1 charge, 1 kill. And so, again, he hasn't really done anything with this free farm lane on top. He had pretty much free farm versus Spirit Breaker for about 5 or 6 minutes time, but unable to make anything happen. I don't think he should be up there alone, because he has absolutely no way to escape if he gets charged, and the supports are really hard pressed to not die themselves. And we see Lina with no brown boots up on her, Sancheng with no TP scroll, so they can't really defend the heroes that get charged. They have to play a little bit more passively, be close to their team, maybe get kills in mid on bottom, but I don't think they can venture up top anymore.
Yeah, the Ursa, as you mentioned, he's got up his phase boots, he's got a wand, stout shield, whatever. But at this point, the Spirit Breaker is able to get so active. He's already almost level 7, so he has his ultimate on demand as well. What you want is an Ursa who can get out and set the tone of the game. And right now, Rattlesnake has just done a phenomenal job in the entire early game laning phase that Tongfu has never had a chance to find any rhythm. And that's really where you can't afford to have an Ursa be. As well as he matches up against the two melee damaging heroes of Lifestealer and Alchemist, he needs a little bit more than just that. And looks like they know it. They're going to go ahead and smoke up, moving as 4 across the river.
It's going to get left field, though, from this invis.
Luo, yep, walks right on top of them using the invis rune. They know what's up. They know he's around, and we're going to have a charge. They're going to come out on Sansheng. Zoe's there, and there's the open wound. Sansheng and Zhao both caught. There's the ulti. They blow up the Bane. However, Icy likely to pay the price and will. There's a Rubik behind to try and help. Telekinesis buys some time. Luo going to infest into the creep. Out he comes, full health that time. Zoe's not done. Big turnaround for Tongfu. They lost the Bane, but that was exactly what they needed. And when you play that aggressive with a Spirit Breaker, you're always going to run the risk of engaging into the dark, and maybe there's a little bit more help there than you anticipated, and that was exactly the case. Finally, Tongfu finds themselves onto the board, bringing down the Lifestealer and the Spirit Breaker.
If they can get more counter ganks like that, then they can definitely get back into this game, but still, the damage has been done very early into the game. We see the gold difference at about 1,500, 6 more kills for Rattlesnake than Tongfu, and Johnny is just free farming top in the meantime with 1 point in Greevil's Greed up. So he went for a 2-3-1 build. He already has his ultimate too, 1,800 gold. I assume he's saving for a Midas. It could be a Shadow Blade. I think early fighting items may be a little bit better, just because Rattlesnake has just been trying to constantly pick kills with the Spirit Breaker, and if they can get Alchemist there too, they were fighting 3-on-5 there because Visage was farming bottom, trying to get his level 6. He just hit level 6 actually, and Alchemist was farming top. So if they have all 5 people there, especially if they engage on the Bane like that, I think they can win the fight.
Johnny being left completely alone, he actually opts to go for a Midas. I was going to say he interrupted his pure battle build with the 3 points into Unstable Concoction and 3 into Acid Spray. Did place his first point into Greevil's Greed, so it looked like he was ready to shift into farm mode, and definitely
like another smoke's about to happen. They just popped it. They're looking for more blood.
Definitely switching into farm mode with that Midas pickup. Tongfu smoking up. They're going to find a passive regen in, and that's going to be spotted by
if
some.
They take that though.
Yep, they should have seen that. He did pick it up. Thought he saw it pick it up.
I think the familiar killed it.
Nope, pretty sure no.
Yeah.
Yep, it did. Anyway, they're going to find Luo nonetheless. Very unfortunate timing for him to be wandering that neck of the woods. And Tongfu beginning to get things back together. As you had mentioned, I mean, the lead wasn't that staggering to begin with. It's still between 1,000 and 1,500, but now with this tower dropping, they're going to be essentially back to even.
I'm surprised that he was walking around the Roshan pit. If you suspect that they're doing Roshan, you just send your familiars in. Big fight coming out on the bottom.
Here we go. They're going to try to engage. Zoe will be caught out. Unstable Concoction slows him down. Ulti spin just to make sure he does end up dropping. Rattlesnake comes in and manages to deny the tower as well. And really about all they could ask for. And that's just something like you said. When the Spirit Breaker's on the map, it's pretty much essential that you take fights anytime you can if you feel like you have the slightest little bit of an advantage. And that time they did, getting a very high priority kill and depriving the supports of Tongfu of a little bit of gold.
I think that Johnny is doing a good job. Even though he went a farming build with 1 Greevil's Greed and Midas, he was still there for that fight, and they definitely needed him to lock down to Ursa and halt Tongfu's aggression. They did end up getting a tower, so not all is lost for Tongfu, and Ursa is still 0-3-3. Another smoke by Rattlesnake. Are they going to be able to pick off XTT or anybody else?
Smoking around through the jungle, looking to make something happen on the Radiant side. Sansheng's going to be spot out. And here we go. There's the charge, locked down, and Sag actually managing to be nightmared. They do get the free kill, so another pickoff going the way of Rattlesnake. And I'll tell you, they're really playing this much more aggressive lineup to perfection. It's like night and day. Game 1, they played the defensive lineup with predicated around the Spectre. This time, though, playing a much more active lineup seems to suit their play style and their personality as a team much, much better.
I definitely agree with you there. And Johnny looks like he's much better at like a mix of farming and fighting. I think he's been playing very, very well. 1-0-5. I don't think the Midas is that bad of a choice either, just because they do need some insurance against Mu. Mu was 0-3, I think, in like the first 3 or 4 minutes of the game. But since then, he's just been farming like an absolute beast. 51-3. So he's caught up quite nicely, even though he just like died way too many times on bottom. Visage looks like he's going for a very early medallion build. I think he has medallion if he wants to do it right now. And they really do have to secure Roshan fast and early, because that's one of the problems when playing against an Ursa. If you lose a fight, you lose Roshan, and then it just snowballs out of that. Off that, they have map control for like next 5 or 6 minutes while they have the Aegis, and then you can usually get the next Roshan off of that, and then it's just bad things happen. So if they can deny Zoe the first Roshan by doing it themselves, that is a very, very huge win for Rattlesnake.
There's the medallion coming out on the Visage as anticipated. They've got Spirit Breaker and Rubik moving up. Rubik has Shikuchi, and we'll have it for at least a little bit longer. And they are hanging around the pit now. And Tongfu definitely beginning to feel the pressure. Again, they know Johnny at this point has picked up a Midas. He is free farming. He has 2 points in the Grievel's Greed now. And they're going to have to cope with that at some point. Phase Boot's now done on the Alchemist as well. In the meantime, Moo trying to play catch-up. Moo just utterly accosted in that bottom lane. Never really had a chance of dropping 4 deaths very early on. And Rattlesnake not having any trouble whatsoever warding off any aggression here in mid.
Rattlesnake is playing very, very well right now. They've kind of shifted strategies. As soon as Tongfu 5-mans, they look for picks-offs. Like right here, it looks like Moo may die after this charge.
Gonna Shikuchi, will be caught out. There's the dust to guarantee the kill. Ulti, not even needed. Infest would have been more than enough, but bringing
Johnny
the Weaver
top.
down. Once again, up atop, we're gonna see Johnny Nightmare. Zoe's there with the Earthshock and the Overpower. So they do end up trading 1-for-1, carry for carry, getting the Alchemist off the map, a big deal for Zoe, but more importantly, just allowing him to be part of another kill. He needs to play catch-up in more ways than one. 5-0 on the Visage on one side, Spirit Breaker sitting at 4-1, 1-1 on the Alchemist now, but as you had mentioned, 0-3 on that Ursa. Even though he didn't get the kill, at least he got a little bit of assist gold.
He has his flats in his stash right now, so Roshan will be a hot point of contest probably in like the next 2 or 3 minutes. Visage has to be very judicious about having his familiars constantly around the pit if they suspect that he's doing it. You can't just rely on Observer and Sentry Ward Vision, because they can easily just smoke in. Elder Titan actually going for a Treads 4-stat build. There's a charge.
There it is. We're going to have Luo engage off the nice Fiend's Grip though, and Ursa just chews him up. The timing for Rattlesnake was not there. Earth Splitter doesn't accomplish much of anything. We will see Zoe stunned out, but he's got a lot of help around him. Mana's an issue for Sansheng, but they do manage to deny the tower. So not a total loss there, but saw Icy coming in, and really it was just poor timing. They engaged in, and poor timing as well as just Tongfu really managing that aggression well. We saw Bane get out of the way. And
the charge on Moo on bottom. Looks like he's going to be charged in about 5 seconds time.
Yep, we see him getting ready to connect. He's got some help there with 1-2-1, and kaboom! There's going to be another dust thrown out. The ulti is there. Don't even need it. Telekinesis helps things out. Actually, no, they didn't blow him up fast enough. Time lapse.
They overlapped. They overlapped the telekinesis as well as the Nether Strike.
Yep.
I think that they can either delay this. I don't know if there's actually enough time to time lapse in between charge and Nether Strike. For the most part, there isn't. So I think that they should have just waited for the Rubik to telekinesis. He used it a little bit too early. Lost kill there. ZSMJ has been really on par with his stuns. He was a charge target on top, and he managed to stun the Spirit Breaker as he was coming in. Usually, if your Lina gets charged, you just die. Unfortunately, Spirit Breaker was charging from this trajectory, so they can see him coming. If he were like a little bit lower, if he was charging from maybe over here, let's say instead, he would have come through the trees, and she would have been unable to react in time. So I think that Spirit Breaker can be a little bit more careful with his charger. For example, on bottom, he charges through the trees, and most of the time he does not have enough time to Shikuchi away.
16.5 minutes in. Rattlesnake maintains the lead, at least in terms of kills. They are going to go ahead and smoke. Looks like they want to try and make something happen. This is just a 4-man smoke, not catching the one in the lane. We can see Tongfu has reversed their fate. They're going to try and get things back on track, though, by sneaking in this Roshan, and as you said, denying it from that Ursa in more ways than one, taking it themselves and preventing him from even having an opportunity. They're in the vicinity, but looks like this is very well thought out by Rattlesnake, as doesn't look like Tongfu really has any idea what's up.
Yeah, they need to send a Spirit in, but it's a little bit too late. I think they suspect it right now, but Roshan's going to be dead. Maybe he can snipe the kill with it? No.
Not going to be the case. We see it picked up. Lifestealer does grab it, and we're going to have the Earth Splitter come in and not connect. They're going to try to pursue this out. Luo made it up to the high ground, though.
People in the pit.
And we're going to see Icy blown up. Johnny not in much better shape. 2 men left behind. The Lifestealer is the one who grabbed the Aegis, so he did manage to make it out. They end up trading a couple of kills. Might be 3 if Moo decides to pursue it out, but instead looks like they just want to accomplish goals elsewhere. Going to rotate now into mid lane. Looks like they want to go ahead and push and take a tier 2.
That was actually a pretty smart Earth Splitter by the Elder Titan. It didn't hit anybody, but it forced the 2 melee heroes to stay in the pit, and they were kind of deciding, like, hey, should I TP out? They both had TPs on them. It's not like they couldn't run away. And they were just, like, caught in a period of indecision. Hey, they don't have Earth Splitter, and we have the Aegis. Can we take this fight? And they're probably discussing amongst their team, do you guys want to take this fight? Because they don't want to TP away and then be unable to join the fight. So a moment's hesitation cost them 2 kills right there, and it may cost them this T2.
Speaking of a moment's hesitation, Tongfu hesitating against their own will. And yeah, they're going to be able to keep this up. Very nice play there coming out of Rattlesnake, especially again.
Oh, the fake back. Here it goes.
You're going to drop the sentry down. And Tongfu taking a look across the lane. We're going to see Rattlesnake begin to move out up towards their own secret shop. Tongfu not falling forward yet. In fact, they're going to send Mu to go be some bait. The rest of Rattlesnake not willing to break apart. They sniff it. They know something's up. They don't feel like it's a very safe situation to be in. They could potentially try to push top if they want, with the creeps being where they are. But looks like both teams content to just kind of occupy space together.
I think Tongfu's done a very good job of item choices, just buying a lot of small items early. Ursa not saving up for Blink, just buying small items to complete as Vladimir's offering. He went Ogre Club too. We see Weaver with an urn because he had a really rough time and he does need to contribute due to the constant aggression from the Spirit Breaker. We see Elder Titan going with a Force Staff instead of something like, let's say, a Shiva's Rush. So I think they've done a pretty good job of bouncing back in this game and from that huge kill deficit quite early.
We can see the response is elicited from Rattlesnake, and then they actually have the Lifestealer inside of the Rubik this time. He has Shikuchi, so they're going to try to do a little trickeration here. They're actually going to go ahead and try to smoke up and try to catch them unawares, catch them with their trousers down here in the jungle. We got 1-2-1 leading the way. Again, he has Shikuchi to get him in close. And in the meantime, though, Tongfu, not liking the way things look, not liking how absent the map suddenly became, they've pulled back towards their own mid lane, and it doesn't look like Rattlesnake has any interest in crossing the river to pursue them.
Rubik still has about a minute left on his Shikuchi. Can he actually find a kill with this? They saw the Spirit return from mid, so they know the heroes are huddled around the T1. Let's see if 1-2-1 can make this happen. Looks like he may run into Mu.
There it is. Mu spotted out. Sentry and Dust is there. He's got a whole team out. They come. There's the Fiend's Grip catching out Icy. In the meantime, Earth Splitter is going to connect and caught a couple. Stomp is there to put him to sleep. Luo's there to help clean things up. XTT trying to make his way back out. Laguna Blade secures 1 kill for ZSMJ. Now the open wounds onto XTT, trying to do what damage he can. Here comes Zoe. There's a haste rune if he wants to pick it up. Instead, it'll be Luo grabbing it up. And in the meantime, behind the fight, we can see Mu able to clean up the Alchemist before he's able to do much of anything. So another big turnaround. Kind of a weird battle there. Both teams landed some abilities. The Earth Splitter shot out from XTT, definitely a turning point in that fight. And Tongfu continues to close the gap, make it 10-12, and the gold handily in their favor now, getting up towards plus 2,000.
Very unfortunate that they didn't kill the Weaver on bottom. Since they didn't kill him on bottom, now he has Prez, now he has Urn, now he has Magic Wand and Ogre Club, as well as some armor. So he's very, very tanky for a Weaver who started off 0-3. And because of that, he was able to get those items and not die here. And his damage output, they pretty much wasted all their bursts on him. The charge, the Scucci, the telekinesis, the infest, all of them were used to try and kill the Weaver. He blew his time lapse, and then immediately the fight turns around. So they really have to make sure that they kill someone on that initial charge and infest game.
Here we go. Visage Familiars lead the way. Here comes the charge. Was there, and he will connect. Icy landing on Zoe. And using the ulti, that secures the kill. Heard another Laguna Blade go off as the SMJ looks to find himself another kill. In the meantime, they're going to pursue out Mu and San Sheng. They're making their way up and around, down into the river now, and the Unstable Concoction will be there to connect. The rest of Tongfu looking to collapse back. Luo will be blown up, loses his Aegis. However, as the SMJ pays after the Soul Assumption, XTT back up and ready to go. Zoe's not done, though, looking to pursue this out. They do manage to get another kill using the Astral Spirit and another overpower. Now Johnny's in trouble. He swiped down XTT. Too tanky to bring down in that amount of time. Luo forced to use drum charges to try and get away.
Full staff, so please.
Mu, there it is. Throwing out the Astral Spirit. That's rage through, though. Mu going to continue to chase him as time lapse open in 7 seconds. Open wound slows him down. And holy dives, Tongfu, going past the tier 3. Hoping they could track him down. Unable to do so. But another big turnaround win going the way of Tongfu. Both teams lost heroes, but the net result is Tongfu takes even more of a lead, up to plus 4,000 gold. The experience heading up to plus 3. They trail in kills, but it doesn't matter. Every other metric tells me they're in the lead.
Yeah, I think that with the force staff on Ursa, maybe they could have gotten one more kill on the lifestealer. I don't really know why he force staffed himself, because he's just going to rage the spirit, and it doesn't really help your teammates catch up to him because he can easily run out of the Echo Stomp range. Zoe had very good target selection in that fight. Even though he died, he got charged by the Spirit Breaker, and then around here, Infest popped out of the Spirit Breaker, and he immediately turned around and killed the Lifestealer, made him waste his rage, and just popped his Aegis right then and there. So he was very, very quick to switch to a very high priority target, because Lifestealer was sitting around 25% HP at that time. So very, very good job by him. Good awareness.
We see Icy has a passenger. He's got his Ogre Club on his way to a BKB. Very much needed with the amount of lockdown he faces from Tongfu. Of course, the Fiend's Grip spell largely going to be reserved for the Lifestealer, so he doesn't have to worry about that. But just trying to allow himself some time, some more survivability. And they do manage to get a Visage Familiar there, by the way. But a little bit more survivability to be a bigger factor in these fights, because as so far, once he lands his charge and his ulti, we're really not seeing a whole lot come out of the SB.
Looking at Johnny, he's actually been farming very, very slowly. He went a relatively late Midas, and he went and helped his team, but he just completed Shadow Blade. Usually we see items come out much, much quicker on the Alchemist, especially when they go the super farming build. His net worth is about...
Charge on the Zoe will connect. The ulti's going to be there if they need it. No, force staffed away. Great play by XTT, and the mass TPs are there. Luo tries to make a run away. No, oh, actually, Icy did make it away. No way to stun him out. Very well orchestrated gank attempt, but they knew they had to make it happen immediately. Unfortunately for them, XTT in the right place at the right time, right underneath that tier 1, buying just enough time with the force on the Ursa to allow the TP reaction, and now Tongfu breathing down the neck of Rattlesnake's top tier 2.
And now we see almost 3 force staffs completed. We have 1 complete on Elder Titan. ZSMJ has his recipe in just 15 gold. Sansheng is working on his with the Ring of Protection in his inventory. And now, with all these items, they can kite the Spirit Breaker and the Lifestealer. They don't really have that much mobility. They have 3 heroes, 3 melee heroes on their team, and if they can just force staff whoever gets charged and open wounds, then I think that they can survive, and then just... all they need to do is mitigate the initial burst, whether it's from time-lapse, defensive sleeps, force staffs. If they can survive the Nether Strike combo, they will win the fight.
And we saw what they attempted at top. They tried to fake them out. They are going to get a kill on the Rubik at the very least. They are going to bring down the top tier 2, so very smart cerebral play. They saw the split push attempt coming out of the Rubik and the Lifestealer and decided, you know what, we can just smoke in the mid, look to get 1 or 2 kills, and we'll just let our Weaver split push. And it worked out. Now with the Rubik down for 18 seconds, they might look to try to do something else. They're really threatening up this mid lane, rattling their saber. And for the first time since it was 0-0, both teams are all knotted up in kills. Roshan will be back up in just about 2 minutes, though.
Mu and BKB, I don't think that's the best choice here, because if you go Linken's, it blocks Charge, it blocks Nether Strike, it blocks Unstable Concoction. Those are all huge spells to block, and it can prevent Rubik from spell stealing the Sakushi. And if you get BKB, you can't actually get defensively slept, you can't get defensively force staff, and you're still vulnerable to the Charge, to the Nether Strike, and to the Rage right-click damage from Lifestealer. I'm very surprised that he went this build. I'm glad that he got the Ogre Club early, because I think he needs the HP, but I think that going BKB instead of Linken's is a mistake.
We're going to see Rattlesnake coming back out a bit, clearing the Ancients out, Tongfu, getting themselves a fair amount of gold. Speaking of gold, the Alchemist is atop the leaderboard. Problem is, the next 3 after him are all not just ahead of the Lifestealer, but they're all ahead of the Lifestealer belonging to the other team, and considerably ahead of that Lifestealer. 1,700 gold, Zoe over top of the LS, and after that, the support's really just quite hungry on the side of Rattlesnake, which is a little surprising given how good of a start they had. And it looks like they're just going to continue to play clear the towers as they move down the bottom lane and now begin to threaten the last remaining tier 2 for Rattlesnake.
Do they see Icy? I think they pinged him out. I saw Purple ping him out, so maybe they see him. Looks like he's going to TP out, though, safely. I thought that he was going to do like a sneaky charge from behind if they pushed a T2, which would have been pretty smart. They're swarming the area right now, not able to find anybody, though. Looks like Rattlesnake still trying to farm up. Roshan is going to respawn. It just respawned. And I think Tongfu has enough map control to force a fight at Roshan.
We're going to see Johnny completing his BKB in just about 500 gold. Very important item for him. And he did end up going with that build. And we saw, when he started, he was very much oriented towards fighting to begin with. But getting the Midas up now, it's been long enough that item is essentially paid for itself. So a little bit of bonus attack speed, and hang on. Icy has a passenger here. Prompted the reaction from Zoe. I'm a little surprised he didn't think about turning around. Now he's got a DD as well. Tongfu does take the tier 2 in the meantime, but Zoe enough to hold things together there in mid lane.
We have a BKB pickup on Zoe too. I think this is a good item for him to get BKB. Not necessarily a good item for the Weaver, but if they try and contest Roshan, he can pop BKB, burst someone down, or just kill Roshan and pick up the Aegis. He does have an empty item slot. I completely expect the item to go to Zoe. They are in no position to defend this. They will get a tier 1 out of it, but that is a very, very good trade for Tongfu.
Tongfu taking that Aegis, and with no outer tier towers remaining, we might see them begin to consider cracking the base. Elder Titan, obviously, with Earth Splitter now at level 2. As he's crossed into, he's got Earth Splitter level 2 because he's level 13. The Lena herself is just hit level 11, so level 2 Laguna Blade for that extra little bit of single target DPS they're going to want to use on a hero like an Alchemist just to burst him down. They've got the tools they need, really. And at this point, the game is very much in their favor, which is remarkable. I mean, the way Rattlesnake began this game, it looked like they had the potential to run away with it, and that just has not been reality, as it's now plus 5,000 in favor of Tongfu.
I think Tongfu is very good at playing defensively at this point in the game, but I don't think they can make an offensive push into their T3. Their lineup and their items excel at playing defensively, like countering the Life Stealer ganks and the charge and the infest bombs, but as far as like being able to pick somebody off, they don't have any blink daggers, especially one on Ursa. That's probably the most important here to get a blink dagger right now, so they can't actually like force the issue. They've been waiting for Rattlesnake to come to them, and because of Rattlesnake's overextension, they've been winning the fights. Looks like there's a charge on Song Chung. Oh, it got canceled. But in terms of just being able, they need to be able to just like blink on someone, kill someone instantly if they're out of position, and then win the fight from there.
That looked like a little bit of a miscommunication. The Familiars were in good position to stun out a couple of heroes, and they did, but the charge was canceled on round. Mu, in the meantime, has continued to just farm himself silly. He's now in second position in terms of overall farm, or overall net worth, coming up just short of that Alchemist. And really, the Ursa's right there with him. So Alchemist, even with Grievel's Greed and even with that Midas, we just have not seen him take control of that leaderboard. And that's something Tongfu's going to be very conscious of. You know, at 30 minutes in, solidly into the mid-game now, they know that they're in good shape. They can check inventories and check items and know that the Alchemist is not too far ahead. But that's not going to stay that way forever. They really need to get some mileage out of this Ursa right here and right now.
And it looks like they're staying very smart and sticking around as 4 right now. Mu is alone on top. He almost has his Desolator complete, just 350 gold. I think they should wait for that, or just buy an item on Ursa. So they're sitting on a lot of gold. They're very close to their items. Roshan isn't respawning for quite some time, so Aegis isn't expiring. I don't think this is the best time to push. They should wait for their big items so they're at maximum strength.
Johnny stuns himself. They might want to engage off of this. There it is! Feed's grip got the Alchemist. Stunned himself. He went in with the Shadow Blade. Blew himself up with the unstable concoction. That forces a buyback. That hurts so much. That gold is not gold he could afford to lose.
I don't know why he stunned himself like that. That was a huge blunder on their part, and being able to force a buyback for really nothing in exchange is a pretty big deal. I mean, he got the 10-second charge on Black King Barb, but that's totally worth it. And now the net worth lead, Ursa and Weaver are on top of the Alchemist. Johnny was sitting pretty comfortably on top, but not after that.
Johnny going to look to make up that deficit now. Trying to find what farm he can. Has to be kicking himself. At the very least, they didn't end up taking a tower off of it, but forcing the buyback. Again, 3 of the top 4 farmers all belonging to Tongfu, and now 2 heroes ahead of that Alchemist, the Ursa and the Weaver. And taking the Ancient Stack only going to make things worse. Speaking of Weaver, picking up the Deso, going to make life even more simple for that Ursa and make life even more difficult for the squishies on the side of Rattlesnake. And really, you know, we've talked about it and seen it before. Hang on, we're going to have a charge on the Mu. Here he comes. He's got help on the side. That's going to be 1-2-1. And Mu pops the BKB. Dust comes out. Do they have enough firepower? He has time-lapse if he needs it, and the BKB saved his life that time. As he does go ahead and time-lapse back, and may have misjudged that one a little bit. Looks like he should still be able to get away, but yet more help on the way. No, there's open wounds. So he's continuing to take damage. Here comes the Alchemist, and Johnny once again happy to eat some egg on his face. Kaboom.
Their T3 is under fire right now. They have to use the glyph. Rubik is really low HP. Are they going to be able to take this T3?
T3 under assault. We've got Sag there trying to hold the line while he can. We're going to see Icy making his way back through. Doesn't have charge, doesn't have ulti. He has nothing to contribute for the next 20 seconds. And that's going to make things pretty difficult for Rattlesnake if they decide to commit to this. Time-lapse just about off cooldown for Mu. He's going to move up and slowly whittle this tier 3 down. Zoe's up there as well. He's got the Aegis. And here we go. Alchemist will engage. You're going to try to pop that Aegis off of him. Here comes the Earth Splitter. Will it connect? It will. Got two. Now they're going to engage off of that. Zoe has the Aegis pop. The rest of Rattlesnake able to pull back. We see the single target DPS of Laguna Blade blows up the Rubik. And Tongfu, unwilling to abandon the siege as Zoe respawns. He's got his BKB if he really needs it. Unstable Concoction will connect. The follow-up's not there, though. Icy, enfeebled, not able to contribute much of anything at this point. And they are going to end up getting this. Now Charge finally off a cooldown. They're going to try to punish XTT for getting out by himself. But in doing so, though, he's going to end up giving up the racks. They commit to go get the kill en masse, knowing they simply can't defend this middle lane anymore. And Rattlesnake, again, who began this game 0-4, completely shutting down the Weaver, finds themselves trailing in kills, trailing in map control, trailing in every metric imaginable. In fact, make it 5-digit gold lead now for Tongfu coming up.
Very good use of Aegis right there. Yeah. And I like how Tongfu was very, very patient. They waited for them to be a little bit out of position. Like, they killed the Alchemist before, but then they bought back. So they were just waiting for a better time to push. And the Ghost Scepter bought 4 seconds time, even though he died. And he forced 4 heroes to go over here, and they got a free Rax out of it without sacrificing Zoe's life, too. He does have a Basher up. I'm surprised he didn't get a Blink, but maybe he doesn't need it. Looking at Roshan, the Aegis would expire in about 20 seconds anyways. So very good use by them. We see a Ghost Scepter pick up on Bane. We see a Force and a Ghost Scepter and a Gem on Lina. So ZSMJ 4, 2, and 6 on the support Lina. Doing very, very well. Way on top of the supports in terms of net worth.
XTT does add a little bit of mobility to his repertoire, adding a Blink Dagger to go with his mech and Ghost Scepter. And really, I mean, at this point, the Elder Titan, just his survivability, his ability to get into fights, to use Stomp. And, I mean, he has been a key part of this entire game plan from Tongfu. Taking a look at the net worth, the Alchemist is still hanging around the top 3, but he's at the bottom position. But still very close. The Weaver, though, is just so large at this point. And this is one of those things that Weaver can do that makes this kind of a lineup so hard to deal with. As you mentioned, it's a defensive lineup, a lineup that likes to be engaged in, too, instead of having the onus on them. And they have the perfect tool to force those engagements in the Weaver. Once he starts knocking at the door outside of your tier 3, he walks up, takes a few pot shots at your tower, does just enough damage that you have to account for it, but if you overcommit, he time lapses, and Tongfu is able to use their defensive capabilities. This time, though, going to be offensive as they decide to smoke into the jungle, going looking for a head. They're going to find Johnny's. Immediately Fiend's Grip, blown up, never had a chance.
That's very close to game over.
1-2-1, yep. Really, little overkill, ZSMJ. I think you had him. But yeah, I agree.
Now they can just push top right now, force the issue. Alchemist, not enough money for a buyback, but even if he had 1 minute left on that, that is probably a second Rax, maybe a third, maybe GG. Surprise pickup by XCT getting the Blink Dagger. I think most of them build Shivas or AC after their Power Treads, Force Staff, and Mech. And it's not like a bad item per se, but he doesn't really need it. He already has his Ancestral Spirit for range, and one of the whoever's doing our stats man pointed that out. That was the first time it's been picked up. So GG comes out from Luo. I did not think that Tongfu would bounce back that quickly after just being a goose egg for the first 5 or 6 minutes of the game, but they played very, very well. Nice force step. I think ZSMJ was probably the standout player for Tongfu in this game.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. ZSMJ. And, you know, Lena's one of those heroes where she only does a few things, but if you do them right, can completely swing a game. And really, it was a team effort, though. I feel like Tongfu it's so discouraging, and so often you see a team get down 6 kills and have your Weaver that far behind, and you feel that overwhelming urge to try and make it all back up at once, and they just flat out didn't. And yes, it is Nahaz Dota. There you go. Thanks for watching. You can find our Twitter addresses there on the side of the screen. And thanks to Nahaz, hopefully he'll stick around with us. Did a great job with stats that game. Overall, Tongfu able to hold it together and able to just grind themselves back to the advantage and grind out a 35-minute win that puts them 2-0 over Rattlesnake at our first best of 3 of the evening. The official game time, 35 minutes, 48 seconds, 18-15. Another low-kill game. And this one is in the books. I'm your host, Aaron AC Chambers, live here in our studio in San Francisco. Merlini joining me for the analysis and content as always. Looking forward to 2 more best of 3 series coming up tonight. So, not sure what time it is. Actually, up, not at the bottom of the screen. QQ. Hashtag Fire Conrad. 20 minutes, you say? About 25 minutes, guys. We'll have our next best of 3 series on the way. I want to thank each and every one of you, as always, for tuning in and Hope you're enjoying the show, so stick with us. 2 more best of 3 on the way here on the D2L powered by HyperX. Stick with us. We'll be right back.